Hello and welcome to another edition of
Lab Rats.
My name's Andy Walker.
Sean Carruthers. We must be at the end of the day, monsieur.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And in fact, we've kind of run out of even segments.
Have we?
But I noticed something. We get a lot of email.
We do.
We get a lot of email. And we don't always have a chance, and we try to respond to as much of it as possible, and we try to take the suggestions and incorporate it into the show. But we don't always get to all of them.
We don't, unfortunately.
So we thought today we'll do a little mailbag episode.
Mailbag!
We're gonna go into the email and see what you guys are asking, and see if we can off the cuff answer your questions. We don't know how this is going to work out, but heck, we can try.
Oh, if it doesn't work out, you're not going to be seeing
You
this
won't even see
episode.
this anyway in the first place, which is great. So, anyway, we'll do that in a second. First, a message from our sponsor, all important. Make sure you go out, check this product out. It's fabulous. It pays our bills. It brings this show to you for free. Here it is.
If a doggy was the new Camtasia Studio 5, it would be the cutest. It would be obedient, and it wouldn't steal Aunt Betsy's purse. The new Camtasia Studio 5. Screencasting software that's better than a doggy. Download it at www.techsmith.com.
Okay, so during the break, my dear friend Carolyn, who years ago started cyberwalker.com with me, she said, you guys can be a little bit more confident about the mail. People love to ask questions, and for every question out there that comes in, there's 19,000 other people who really want to know the answer. So, okay, mailbag's going to be a regular, frequent feature of this show from now on, and you're going to, send in mail that says, give us more mailbag, please. Right?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, so let's get into it, because I've got dozens here, and we'll see how far we can get.
All right.
And we're just going to answer these off the cuff.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So, first one is from Andrew, and he says, hey, Lab Rats, wondering what the best and affordable external hard drive is out there on the market today. And you guys should show more stuff about the insides of a computer, maybe even build one once you come back from Las Vegas. So, Andrew sent us this email when we were in Las Vegas recently.
So, obviously we're not going to build one right on this show, but you know what, this is something that we've been planning to do for a while, and we will do this. So, we've got the parts, we've got the cases, we've got all this stuff. It will happen.
And I have a web browser, and I go to Dell.ca, and that's how I build mine.
That's one way to build it, but if you want to build it out of component parts, we're going to do this. We'll suggest you go back to one of our previous episodes where we talked about building versus buying.
Yeah.
And you can check that out, but we will actually go in and start with a screwdriver and build it from scratch. The one thing about that is an intimidating process to do in a show like this, because you got to show a lot of different stuff, a lot of editing. And typically we try to do these shows as live as we can and then edit as little as possible. We did an editing episode recently, but we will do this. Maybe do a quick tutorial in several parts on how to do that. But to the question.
To the question. So, best external hard drive.
Okay. Now we're going to ask one question, is what you're going to use it for. Are you going to use it with a notebook, or are you going to use it with a PC?
Right.
So the two things that you have those options for is a small notebook-sized hard drive and a full-size external hard drive.
Right.
You can use either with either, obviously, but if you're going to be using a notebook, you'll probably want one of the compact ones. I really like Seagate's Free Agent series now, and I like Western Digital's Passport series. Either one of them is fine. They're both reasonably affordable, and depending on what capacity you want and what extra features you want. With the Seagate one, they have a built-in backup software that you can use for that.
Is this part of the Maxtor OneTouch series that they acquired, or is it?
There's Maxtor drives as well. Yeah. So Seagate and Maxtor, same company now, but the Free Agent series basically has a Windows-based software that you can just essentially say, back up this amount of my hard drive and go. So they have that for both desktops, the full-size drive, and they've got the portable ones.
Also ask yourself this question, which is, are you going to plug it into a USB connector, or do you have a FireWire connector on your machine? If you have a FireWire, external hard drives actually, especially for backing up It's a much better technology. So if you have that option to choose a FireWire connector to your laptop or to your desktop, choose that over USB. USB works fine, but
Yeah, especially if you're using it as an external drive for capturing video or something like that. Now, I will say USB 2.0 as a connector for general backup, it's not a bad choice.
Now that connector, of course, showed up on computers about 4 years ago,
Right.
3 or 4 years ago.
So the nice thing about USB 2.0 is it's cheaper. If you get one with FireWire, it's generally a bit more expensive. Now, the thing I like about the full-size free agent from Seagate, again, is that it has a plate on the bottom that you can remove, so you can get the USB 2.0 plate on there. Or if you want, you can do FireWire or external SATA drive as well.
SATA.
So if you've got a full-size desktop with an external SATA connector on the back, then you can actually use this external drive with that. And it's faster and better and all of that stuff. Not necessarily applicable to all computers. So figure out which one you're going to do, obviously. If you have only USB, then this is the way you're going to go. And you can actually do one of those cheaper than a drive that has FireWire on it as well.
There you go.
And you've also got FireWire 400 and you've got FireWire 800 as well, depending on the speed of FireWire and the newness of your computer. So again, those are options as well. But either Seagate or Western Digital, I think they have great choices. External drives, I like Western Digital's MyBook series, especially MyBook Pro has a 1 terabyte drive for about $799 for the Mac. I think you might be able to, you can convert that over to PC, but it's just a big, it's actually 2 terabytes.
Wow.
So that's a lot of backup potential.
Good. Fantastic. All right, moving on. This one's from, he didn't sign it. It was Carter SSJC was the beginning of his email. So we don't know what your name is. I mean, it's just Carter. So Carter asks, when I try to copy DVD movies that I own using Disk Utility, which is obviously a Mac utility, right, built in, it won't let me. It says read only or no permission.
Yeah, and you know what? After we did that one, we found out that Apple changed that. It's something that you used to be able to do is just back up this DVD movie, but I think they probably heard pressure from the motion picture industry that said, please don't copy our discs, don't make it easy. So it's not always possible anymore. So unfortunately, Carter, if that is your name, in fact, it's not always possible anymore, unfortunately. But there are other programs that will do this. So in that case, what I'd suggest is going to something like Handbrake, which you can get for Mac and PC now, and just copy it into MP4 format. So instead of just making a backup copy of the DVD, you make it into an MP4, and then you can actually take another program, an authoring program, and then bring that back out to DVD.
Maybe we should do an episode on that sometime.
Sounds like a good plan.
Maybe. All right, we'll see. We'll see what we can do there. All right. Now, apologies in advance for this next one. Not sure how to pronounce your name. I think it's Detlef.
Detlef.
Pelz.
Detlef Peltz.
Peltz. So Detlef.
I'm going to go on record as saying that's the proper pronunciation.
Very good. He has been watching our Consumer Electronics Show coverage, and he says, what's bothering me is that there's a huge number of gadgets on display, and they all require batteries to work. And it surprises me, while the technology is forging ahead in leaps and bounds, battery technology isn't keeping up. So he wants to know what is going on in the world of batteries, and what options we have, and can we talk a bit about it?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that battery technology hasn't kept pace. Over the course of the last few years, they've moved from nickel-cadmium to nickel metal hydride, and now we're using something called lithium-ion. That's been a few years, so it hasn't been keeping pace as much, but there's always something happening in there. I haven't heard anything major that's happened since that point. There's been lithium polymer, the technology you can wrap the battery around other components inside the battery. But yeah, I think that what he brings up is a really awesome point. The fact that we've got all of these technologies that use battery, and there's just a lot of wasted power out there, I think. And one of the things that I think is really nice is we've got things like the Core 2 processes that are trying to use the battery more efficiently. It's not so much that the battery itself is improving, although we'd love to hear, if you're watching and you know something that's going on in the world of battery, you're working with a battery manufacturer, we'd love to hear what's coming up new, and you can tell that. But I think a lot, using the battery more efficiently, using less power, using alternative technologies like solar, like the little gadget that we saw from the iQuad that uses a solar panel on the side to keep
battery
battery
charge,
topped up.
Well, the other thing too, of course, is OLED's coming out. OLED, organic light emitting diode. And we saw those displays from Sony. They use less power, right? So the display's using less power, so actually batteries are more efficient. Processors using less power, so batteries are more efficient, right? Those kinds of things. I did want to mention one thing though, that I did see prototypes of hydrogen batteries a few years ago. And of course, the hydrogen revolution is coming. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but in the next 10 years or so, we're going to see more hydrogen fuel cells. And I have seen a prototype of about a little battery that actually has a hydrogen fuel cell in it. Very expensive to manufacture, but the idea being that once it's spent, all it contains is water. It's completely finished.
Yeah, and that
generates.
Yeah, that's worth noting. We did see one of the hydrogen fuel cell manufacturers, Horizon Fuel Cell. And right now, creating hydrogen is more energy intensive than just using the energy in the first place for powering the gadget.
Cracking it out takes more power than the power you're going to get.
For like an automobile, for example. When you're using a battery-powered automobile that is getting it originally from hydrogen. But when you're using it from solar power, a little bit more. But you can't power anything that's really high energy from solar, unfortunately. It's the efficiencies aren't there. So I think as we see more efficiency in that, then that'll be doing a lot better when the fuel cell becomes more energy efficient.
There you go. Good. Next one's from Norman Ublies. And he said, on one of our episodes, episode 23, you guys were cleaning computers with a can of compressed air. I guess it's more a comment than it is anything else. And he said, Sean said that if you don't get the can at a certain angle, then you get the white stuff on your components. And he said, I read the instructions, which is very good, Norman.
Yeah. I don't read the instructions.
The instructions on the compressed air can say that you should use short blast, not when you're cleaning. And if you use a sustained blast, then you risk freezing some components in your computer.
That's a good point, and that's why you should never blast that thing into your computer while it's running, because it will chill it and it'll crack the ceramics inside the chips.
And he adds, there's also a risk of frostbite for using a sustained blast on your skin.
I have actually gotten frostbitten on my skin from blasting one of those things at. Those cans get really cold when you shoot them for like a minute at a time, which is apparently not something that you should do according to the instructions.
Right.
Like I've ever read the instructions on anything.
Thank you, Norman. That's great. It's a really good comment.
I will mention that fact is that this is my philosophy on electronics and consumer electronics. If you have to read the instruction manual for any consumer product, there's something wrong with it. Now,
I used to test gadgets that way. I launched a gadget magazine in the States called Dig It years ago. And that was one of the key criteria about reviewing the products was if you had to read the instruction manual, then there was a problem with the device itself. It wasn't designed properly. So
Right. I agree. I know some people that don't agree. One of them is behind the camera. But, you know, there's some products where they use the same button for multiple functions. And when you have to do that, I think there's a user interface problem. But there we go.
There you go. All right.
That's a little bit of diversion from the original blasting of compressed air. But there you go. A little bit of philosophy from Lab Rats.
Thank you. Lab Rats philosophies. Okay, Dave Saunders sends an email. He says he's trying to link his Arcos, which of course is a little handheld video player, to our podcast, but he's having a few troubles. Could you send me the URL address to your podcast so I can make sure I'm using the correct one? And he's only seen one episode so far.
And he's seen more than one now.
Does, because you talked to him.
So.
Did you email him?
I emailed him, but the one thing is we have various feeds for our episodes, and those are essentially XML feeds, which is like HTML, but it has a little bit more data. But when you subscribe to us, you're subscribing to our XML feed, which is essentially a list of instructions that tells you what the feed or what the video file is and where to find it.
Yeah.
And what you can do is, if you're not 100% sure as how to get that feed from us for these various devices, if you go to labrats.tv and look at the bottom, there's a whole pile of tiny little buttons at the bottom of the main page that show you the various types of episodes that we have. So we've got XVID, we've got the QuickTime file, we've got the Windows Media file, and it's pointing to an RSS file essentially that lists, RSS stands for really simple syndication, which is essentially XML, as I mentioned earlier, and it shows you what the episodes are, where they are, and how to get them.
Right. So you can actually right-click and say, copy of this link. That's one way to actually get the link to that particular type of file. You know.
So if you click on that button, you'll get a bunch of gibberish that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to anybody.
Not in Firefox.
Not in Firefox? Well,
Yes, Firefox renders them, some of them, so it actually shows you a list of the episodes in some cases.
But what you can do is
sometimes it does.
right-click that and copy it, or just click on it and look at the address in the bar, and then copy that to whatever program you're trying to use it. So if you're using iTunes, you would take that and put it into your iTunes browser. If you're using something that is like specific to your Arcos player or to another player, you would put that address into that section where you say subscribe and then dump it in there.
And it should work. All right. Thank you, Dave Saunders. Okie dokie. Brady Frederick. He actually sent us lots of emails recently.
Yes.
Very keen. Thank you, Brady. And unfortunately, we can't answer all your questions, but I'm going to, let's see if we have a look at. He goes, hey, tech-savvy people, I'd like to start up my own video podcast. I know how to create the files, but I just can't find out how to turn them into a podcast or find a free web server that can handle that much data.
Okay.
So I know there's a guy called Vincent, one of our favorite, Vincent Bognot. Found a free web server that accomplished this for him, so I figured he could help me out with that. So if you have any tricks for not the recording or editing of videos, but the actual publishing of them, please do tell.
Okay.
Now, we promised to actually create an episode on how we take the finished files and put them out there on the internet. So we will do that in the future.
The quick answer to this, Libsyn. That's what we use for our distribution of the files. Now we're creating our XML files, again, which we talked about a bit earlier in this episode, that shows you where the episodes are, how to get them, all of that stuff. We create those ourselves, and we'll show you how to do that later. But Libsyn gives you distribution. So you upload them to Libsyn, you pay them a certain amount per month for a certain amount of space on their server. And once it lasts for about 30 days, and then at that point it goes into the archive, and then that space clears up, and you can put something new on there.
That's right.
So for audio podcasters, you've got something like 2 or 3 megabytes per file, potentially, if it's short or longer. So you can get one of the smaller accounts that Libsyn offers. If you're doing video, you might want to do a bigger account, and it'll cost you from $10 a month, I think, up to maybe 50 for one of the larger accounts. That'll handle a certain amount of video files per month. Now the good thing about Libsyn is that in addition to storing these files for you, it'll also have a feed. So you can find on Libsyn's control panel how to gain access to that and then make that available through your own website.
You can actually be the website for your podcast, which is a really good way to get started for a very, very low cost.
Right, so not only the main page, but also the XML file, the feed, and all of the files themselves, all in one place.
Good stuff.
So if you've already got a place to dump your files already, you've got access to a web server that has all these things on there, you can use a service called FeedBurner. And FeedBurner will help you create the XML files, the feeds that people can subscribe to using their podcasting client.
Good.
And we'll put that page up right here.
Yeah.
FeedBurner.
FeedBurner and Libsyn, Libsyn, but we'll put the URL up here. Okay, finally, last question, because we're going to wrap it up. Burns, the guy who calls himself Burns, Alan Burns, I guess. He says, I recently bought myself a new gaming system, and I don't want to mess things up. So if I had to reformat Vista down the road, I would like to know how to do it. So can you do a show on that? And the answer is maybe, at some point. But if you go to cyberwalker.com, I actually have a step-by-step how to reformat, how to wipe your machine and put a fresh version of Vista on there. And we'll put up a URL here so you can get to there very, very quickly. But actually, there's lots of FAQs, not only for Vista, but XP, ME, 98, 95.
Yeah, people have asked us, I think, how to downgrade from Vista to XP, and that's something that we should look at in an upcoming episode as well.
I have an article on that, too,
There
so
you
I'll
go.
walk about how to do that.
So I think the one thing that you should take away from this before you do any of that stuff, back up any data that you want. Get one of those external hard drives we talked about at the beginning of the show. Put all the data that you don't want to lose onto that drive before you do any backup or before you do any reformatting of your drive, because you're going to lose that data and you're going to be unhappy.
And if you buy a copy of my book, Windows Vista Help Desk, there's 3 chapters that tells you exactly how to do that.
Exactly.
In absolute fantastic detail.
You know, I sort of cringe whenever he talks about his book, but, you know, he's right. It's got that
It's very
information in
affordable. It is. It's very affordable. There you go.
there. And anytime you reinstall the operating system, whether we're talking about from the recovery disk that comes with your system, that's the cleanest and easiest way to do it. If you've got like an HP machine or a Dell or whatever, that's the quickest way to get it back to the state that it was in when you first got it.
Yep.
Or whether you go from Vista to XP, you're going to have to wipe the drive. All of those things will get rid of every single bit of data that's on your machine. Backup, backup, backup. Do it.
And if you don't, you're going to cry.
You will cry a lot.
All right, so let's take a quick break. When we come back, final words from our mailbag episode. So, I think that was a good episode. I enjoyed that.
We laughed, we cried, we answered some questions.
And we get to, we get to give you lots of answers in a very short period of time. So, if you enjoy this episode and you want to see more feedback, mailbag episodes, then send us an email and let us know.
Yeah, feedback at labrats.tv.
Right, and put it in the topic mailbag.
Yeah, and we apologize we can't get to all of the ones that you send to us, and we do try to answer as many as we can. If we don't answer them personally before you see the episode, then apologies, but we are getting quite a few of them, so. But we'll try to answer what we can.
What we can. There you go. All right. No pictures today, right?
No pictures today.
No pictures in the mailbag episode.
I was hoping Cookie Monster would send his picture after our previous disco cookie episode.
That was a fun episode.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm fading.
Are you?
It's been a long day, so it's time for a cocktail. So we hope if it's legal for you to drink, we hope you'll go to the fridge and get one, and if it's not, then...
Yeah, if you're too young, go and get a root beer or sarsaparilla or something like that.
All right. Thanks so much for downloading today. We love that you watch our show, and we love making it and bring it to you every week. My name is Andy Walker.
I'm Sean Carruthers.
And we will see you next time.
Are you ready? Try this at home.
Okay.
You guys could have been a little more confident about the whole mailbag thing. It's like
It's okay.
people love, getting their questions answered. And for every question, there's 19,000 other people who
That's true. All right, well, we'll bring that up. Coming back, okay.
Yeah, just...
Two.